Happy Independence, Nigeria. Of course, you heard from the president. That should be his last public address. That is talking about the 1st October public address. And of course, he said a whole lot of things talking about, of course, he recognizes the fact that we are going through a lot as a nation, but commended the resilience of Nigerians and also assured that, you know, the patience of Nigerians will certainly not go in vain. Welcome to the studios of Weekend Deal. It's always a pleasure to have you join us. My name is Suleiman Babajiao Usman, and of course, Shike is here.
Yeah, I'm Shike Olai Ikpenayi. Nigeria is 62, and this is greeted with excitement and also reflection on how far we have come and how we have fared these 62 years. You had the president's speech, quite loaded, and in the course of the program, of course, we'll be dissecting some of the issues raised by the president in his last independence speech. And we're supposed to join the news studio for the AM news.
But before we join the news studio, you know, when the president came into power, there were some, you know, key areas. We talk about the economy, we talk about the security, and also chiefly on that, on his agenda then was the fight against corruption. Which of course he assured Nigerians that, you know, we have structures in place to ensuring that we, you know, check these corrupt practices in the country.
When we return, the conversation will continue. It's the Independence edition of Weekend Deal on the network service of the NTA. And we're looking at a whole lot of issues from economy to security, a whole lot. Now, in this background report, Francis Ogbe leads us to some of this issue. Let's just watch and to set the pace or the tone for our discussions today.
From the amalgamation of the Southern and Northern Protectorate in 1914 to the struggle for independence in 1960, Nigeria's journey to nationhood has been quite undulating. However, anniversary is a time to reflect on past years' successes and failures, losses and gains in order to reposition and re-strategize for a better and more desirable future results. How have we fared as a nation?
At independence, our population approximately is about 35 million. Today you are talking about over 200 million population. At independence, we have about maybe 10 or less than universities. Today you have so many universities. In virtually every state of the Federation, you have 3, 4, 5 universities. At independence, you can verify the number of infrastructure we have, roads, hospital, and so on and so forth. They are extremely scarce. Today they are virtually everywhere, even if they are not at the standard that is expected, but we have them available. So which means there's room for improvement, there's room for rejuvenating what we have, redesigning it, and make it a first-class, institutions around the world. So yes, we are not where we are expected to be, but we are getting there gradually.
For me, if you want to talk about how far we have come, I would say so far, not so good, because many Nigerians are disappointed. You see, a lot of people are leaving the country now, whereas before, it wasn't the case. When I was in secondary school, I had a lot of Pakistanis, Indians, people from a lot of countries, even British. Even up recently, when I was in the university, one of my lecturers was a British. I lived in Nigeria until he died. But that is no longer the case.
During the First Republic, agriculture was the mainstay of the economy. The North had cotton and groundnuts, the East had palm oil, and the West had cocoa. With revenue generated from these products, the regional governments were able to cater for the needs of their regions.
At the point of discovering oil and the abuse of the proceeds of oil by those that are in power then, and then the selection of those who benefit from the abundance of oil led to weakening other sectors of the economy. That's what led to our laziness as a people. We abandoned our hard work, we abandoned our resilience, to a point of looking for things that are cheap. And that's what led to where we are today.
Yes, in the South, and then you have cocoa and all those things. The market value of those things are still there. So why did you allow that to go down? Have we not been investing in training manpower? Yes, we have. Then you see that our policies we have not been faithful to the policies we turn out.
The task of unifying the various ethnic, religious, political, and socio-economic groups in Nigeria has remained a major national challenge.
Nigerians are not extremists by nature. We are not. We are very friendly people. But we have allowed indoctrination. Religious leaders have played into creating more divisions in the country, just like the politicians have done. You can see somebody who served as a minister. Today is talking about his ethnic base. He's talking about his religious base. But he was a federal minister that has served this country. And he have never resigned simply because his ethnic group or his religious interest or his regional interest was not protected. But he was part of a cartel sharing the national cake. But once he's removed as a minister and so on, he will go back to his community and say that I was removed because I'm from this tribe, or because I belong to this religion, or because I belong to this region. These are tragic things that have befallen a country, but simply because there's weak leadership, there's lack of deterrence.
Some people have argued that the crises in the country are traceable to the failure of the elite to provide proper leadership for the people. Others accuse them of being responsible for fanning the embers of hatred and division in the country.
These are the people we need. These are the leadership. Because people will always constitute the leadership. That they should be the conscience of the country. But when they fail to live to that creed, things will never be fine. Elites don't want people who are benefiting from the system, as rotten as it is, want it to continue.
People cannot afford basic things. And those who have the resources are buying the conscience of those who doesn't have, because poverty has been weaponized. That's what led us to where we are. And politicians are largely responsible for creating these divisions, for creating this nonsense, for creating this rubbish, and eventually we are all paying for it.
Notwithstanding the challenges confronting the nation, there is a clarion call for all hands to be on deck towards making Nigeria a force to be reckoned with in the Committee of Nations.
I want a Nigeria that is inclusive, and I still hold on to that. A Nigeria that is inclusive, a Nigeria of great opportunities, where I don't need to know anybody to succeed.
My dream of a Nigeria in the next 10 years, by electing somebody who have the interests of the country at heart, who is willing to listen, somebody who is bringing the best brains around him in his cabinet. I see unprecedented development in the infrastructure of the country, in the healthcare sector, in the educational sector especially.
Our focus on Weekend Deal today will be on 62 years of Nigeria's independence, the journey so far.
The journey so far. Of course, we'll further talk about this because we have joined us in the studio Suleiman Mande. He's the Program Officer, Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, also a transition monitoring group. And of course, you're welcome to our studios.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate being invited. Happy
it's a pleasure.
Independence Day to Nigerians.
Now, Suleiman, globally there are certain parameters to measure the strength of a nation to gauge if it is really doing well or failing. You had the president give his last, Independence Day broadcast. What are your thoughts? Are we on the right track given the last 7 years?
Well, of course, the president made a very strong statement, and one of the statements that captivated my attention is the issue around the indefatigable spirit of Nigerians, that we can overcome every challenge that we're facing. And we have gone through quite a lot of challenges. We are still going through a lot at the moment. And it is only when we unite, you understand, and look at things from the angle of unity, peace, progress and justice that we can be able to overcome most of the challenges that we're facing as a country. Now let's remember that we are in a democracy, and in a democracy we look at things from the perspective of inclusivity, that all people, regardless of their ethnicity, religion, are carried along in the decision-making processes.
Okay, what efforts will you now advise to be put in place in terms of economy to be able to reset the economy and put it on the path of growth?
Well, some of the efforts is to put more effort in fighting corruption, because, like I said, this is one of the cardinal campaign promises of the president before he came to power. So when we capitalize more on anti-corruption, fighting corruption, anti-corruption issues, I think we can go far in building more resilience in terms of economic growth and development, and in building a more stable democracy in Nigeria.
Now, Suleiman, of course, this administration came up most especially after the, COVID-19 pandemic. Of course, it's a global shock. There were interventions, we talk about trader money, we talk about Empower, we talk about conditional cash transfer, we talk about the soft loan, grants, most especially NASA Microfinance Bank loans. And putting all of this together, how far-reaching has been the impact from your own assessment?
Like we always say, we have to look at issues of corruption in all aspects of governance in Nigeria, and this is no exception, because there is a massive corruption even in the intervention, the social intervention program that the current administration introduced. So I think we need to do more on eliminating poverty, and we can do that by improving our education system. Like the president has mentioned, he's greatly concerned with the education system, even the current ASU strike, because it is only when we have an educated population that we can be able to produce, and when we produce, that's when our economy will grow.
So you share this the thought that the ASU should make some sacrifice given the scarce resources we have in the country. Of course, the president alluded to that.
Well, of course, sacrifice is something that we as a people, as Nigerians, must make, must do, because without sacrifice we cannot be able to achieve the goals that we set for ourselves as a country, The sacrifice must come from both the federal government, the ASU, and the students, and every Nigerian. Let's look at things from the angle of the collective, We are living in Nigeria as a whole. We are the people, so we must make the necessary sacrifice as a collective entity, so that we can be able to address these education challenges, because, like it or not, without education, functional education, no nation can move forward, and no nation can experience economic growth and development.
So now we cannot end this conversation without noting President's comments on resilience of Nigerians in the face of all the daunting challenges. What do you have to say to Nigerians considering our resilience in all those situations?
Well, first of all, I think, despite the fact that we are here to celebrate the Nigerian 62nd independence, and I think I have to say that this is also a moment of national reflection. You understand? Because we looking at where we have come from, where we are now, and where we want to go in the future. It calls for deep self-reflection, and like I said, this is a collective call. This is a call for a collective moral duty. This is a moral responsibility upon each and every Nigerian. We have to sit down and think critically about where we have come from, where we are now, and where we want to go. You understand? Because without that, we cannot truly figure out where we have made mistakes, where we have made errors, and what we need to do in order to effectively and adequately address our problems as a country.
Oh, thank you very much, Suleiman Mande, for your thought. At least from our first report, somebody talked about, people sharing national cake and all of that. I believe if there's any national cake to be shared, it should be restricted to this.
Of course. But of course, there is a bigger national cake that, the bigger...
Yes.
people
The national cake in
Thank you very much for sharing this moment with us, and happy independence.
Happy independence. Thank you, sir.
All right, up next we have a report put together by Ayuba Tete, and of course it's going to be analyzing our journey so far as a nation.
The Nigerian nation. What started off in 1914 as a mere geographical strategy of the colonialists has blossomed into the most formidable black nation that makes up for 2.6 of the world's population. However, with such impressive statistics, quite a number of Nigerians still see the country as a rather slow work in progress.
Nigeria as a giant of Africa, once they refuse to move, other people cannot move. At a point in time, when American kids were growing, they started showing them movies of the possibility of living in the sky, possibility of living in the moon and other planets. They are thinking, that national policy was sustained. The thinking of the kids at that time was that there would be a time in the country, in this world life, where people can live comfortably there. That was why they started building technology, developing what they can do, and the system was supportive. In our climb, what we see in movie, it is issue of ritual killing, shortcut to make money, and this has really affected our psyche as kids. And we grew up with this mentality. That is why when you check our system today, you see a lot of youth who should ordinarily be putting effort towards building a viable nation. They are engaged in fraud, rituals. When you turn to your internet, you will see the person has been killed for ritual, the person has been killed by ritual. It is what has been planted in our side from childhood. The various leaders, they have failed in this regard. They have failed to define a proactive, patriotic, realistic, practicable national policy that is sustainable, even if it's economic, even if it is ideological. That's okay. Let us start teaching our kids how to grow and become a responsible adult.
Nationhood is a journey, and like all journeys, it is faced with all sorts of challenges. Some are inevitable, while some lie in the hands of those in charge of its navigation. In other words, the leaders. And competent leadership relies on the policies introduced and implemented, starting from the mind state of the citizens.
As it stands today, all hope is not lost. There are still remedies. There are still things that we can do to rewrite our history. We are just 62. We are still going to 100. We are still going to 200. We are still going to 300, 1,000, and so on and so forth. What we should quickly reassemble ourselves and sit down together and think on how to fix this country together. Because it is so pathetic that in 2022, when we are talking about who will be the next president of this country, people are still making reference to ethnicity, people are talking about religion, people are talking about earth. Although some of these things may be important, but they should not be the core issue. The core issue is that how accessible will this data be? How impactful will this data be? Can we be able to bring our own suggestions to the table? To be honest with you, I believe this country will work. It is just for us to change our orientation, ideological orientation. Let us have it in mind that this country will work. And in doing that, we have to shun every form of tribalism, clanship, every form of religion, bigotry. These things are damaging.
Some would say that the nation is still young. Some, in fact, liken it to a toddler still learning how to walk. So it is our general prayer as Nigerians that this great nation changes into the country we all yearn for. A country truly considered as the giant of Africa, not just in words, but also in action.
Yeah, the journey so far. For us to make some appreciable progress in our journey to nationhood, we have to shun all forms of divisive elements in our relationship together. Okay, we're still talking about the 62nd independence anniversary of Nigeria and the journey so far. We have someone in the studio now that will be reflecting on some of the issues that we are battling with as a nation. He's the Managing Director of Electrification Agency of Nigeria, and his name is Ahmad Salijo Ahmad. Sir, you're welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much. I'm happy independence to us.
Okay, thank you very much. You know, we cannot talk about Nigeria, progress, development without talking about power.
Yes.
How much progress have we made in that sector?
I think we have made a tremendous progress in the power sector. I know that the progress that we have made is both from the on-grid and off-grid sector. And for me, I talk more on the off-grid space because the work that we've been mandated to do is to continue to complement government efforts in improving the infrastructure for the on-grid space through generation, transmission, and distribution. However, during the time when that is happening, there are communities, who entirely do not even have any infrastructure for power. And this is why the agency has been set up to be able to expand or extend power to those communities that are entirely off-grid. So I believe in the last few years that I have been in the Rural Electrification Agency, we have made tremendous progress towards providing power to unserved and underserved Nigerians through various programs that we have been running. We have been able to expand our scope to cover technologies for the off-grid space through solar energy, through renewable energy. And I'm very glad to listen to our president this morning when he talked about things that we've been doing for climate change, things that we've been doing around the agricultural space. So these are all programs that we have been able to put together under the Rural Electrification Agency to ensure that the electricity that we take to these rural communities actually speak to the economic impact and socio-economic lives of our rural dwellers. So I can take you through some of these programs.
Okay, before you do that, and I'm sure you listened to Mr. President's speech, and then of course we'll engage you on that as well, among other things. But before we do that, let's refresh our memories when we talk about the first independence anniversary. I mean, when Nigeria got her independence. Of course, the report is coming from Lagos.
Colors, fireworks filled the air, a day to reckon with history as the Union Jack was lowered and the green-white-green stood tall. That heralded the birth of a new nation, a nation flowing with milk and honey. 1st October 1960, is a date that remains indelible in the heart of Nigerians, old and young.
The preparation towards the Independence Day, I think for me was the most significant, because there was that bustling, there was that excitement, there was all the preparations, decorating of the streets, with pom-poms. I don't know whether it happened in other states, but in Lagos, on Broad Street, everywhere. Even in Isaleko, we have pom-poms, we have little flags all done in our streets, You have schools preparing songs, doing march past, it was all great excitement.
For years, that small flag, I was keeping it inside below my box. I kept it for years. Now that I know people are selling it all over, that's why I didn't. But I know it was very precious.
This annual celebration, always filled with pomp and pageantry, remains the day many Nigerians look forward to celebrating. It signifies another new beginning, a new calendar in the life of our dear nation, Nigeria. Over the years, the nation has metamorphosed and gone through different challenges, both with diverse entities, norms and values. Yet, we have forged ahead. A nation blessed with beautiful people and cultures. We might have our differences, but Nigerians remain resilient, hardworking and highly intelligent people, indivisible with the aspiration to forge ahead no matter what.
We have to give glory to God, first and foremost. We have experienced lots of ups and downs in this country. The things we have experienced that would have separated us. But God in His infinite mercy loves us much. He kept us together. And that is one reason why all Nigerians will have to accord respect to one another. Unity in diversity. God has kept us together. You will understand that in one state, you have numerous languages, and we are able to cope with it, not to talk of the whole nation. I think Nigeria will be a better place if only all our leaders will come together, including the downtrodden. We all have roles to play to make this country a better place for all of us.
Judging from all what we've been having and seeing and we learned, we're not doing too well. But I still hope, if only we can go back to God. We are just still believing that except God, because all that we are seeing now are just, we are just in shambles. We have brain drain nowadays, everybody trying to go out, everybody trying to go out for whatever reason. You don't know even mind where you're going. It's just unfortunate. We also have some virgin area in Nigeria, some untapped talents that are wasting.
When we were at 30, there were a lot of manufacturing company in Nigeria. And manufacturing company is the key for any economy. Understand? But now, the Texas companies, the tire industry, are no longer to be found. In actual sense, Nigeria at 62, we look forward to see a better Nigeria. We look forward to see a Nigeria that is bubbling with a lot of economic benefits.
As we celebrate and stand tall in the Committee of Nations to raise the hopes and aspirations of our dear people, we raise our flag to say, "Arise, O compatriots, and salute our achievements." Happy Independence, Nigeria.
Yes, we are still basking in the euphoria of an independence anniversary, and like we always encourage you, keep sending in your contribution. We get to share them with the rest of the viewers. Now this one says, "Good morning, happy independence. Nigeria is blessed with abundant human and natural resources, but deviation from the philosophy of the founding fathers has been responsible for our current wars that what we need is attitudinal change. This is coming from Akinola Ololade from Ilorin, Kwara State. Of course, we still have our guest in the studio with us. That is Ahmed Salhijo, the MD of Rural Electrification Agency. You listened to Mr. President's speech. What are your thoughts? What are your takeaways from his speech?
I think my major takeaways from our president's speech this morning is the kind of efforts we've been putting as a country, both to do with our economic activities. We all know what we went through a few years ago with the pandemic and the kind of policies that our government has put in place to recover from that pandemic, such as the Economic Sustainability Plan, which the Rural Electrification Agency was also privileged to have participated in contributing to that plan through the Solar Power Niger program, where we were mandated to implement a program for 5 million solar homes and also to affect 25 million Nigerians. Our president also spoke to some of the medium-scale enterprises within rural communities in agriculture. For instance, we have been privileged to recently launch programs around energizing agriculture, and the major objective is to see how electrification in the rural communities can impact lives. So you now deliberately design programs that takes you to those sort of sectors in agriculture where we're applying solar technology to improve irrigation in the rural areas, and we've just launched that just recently with some international partners like the UNDP and the GEF program that we are working with.
One of the respondents said, all leaders, if Nigeria must move forward, all leaders must do the right thing. In your own sphere of influence, what are the things you're doing that you will say as a leader? Of course, you are a leader of some sort. As a leader, that you are doing the right thing to help move Nigeria forward.
I think the major issue is, for me, you need to have a plan. So when I was appointed about 3 years ago, it was very obvious that there was a lot of progress that was made in the Rural Electrification Agency. However, it was also important to look at the agency and analyze what has been done right so that you can improve upon it, and of course look at what hasn't been done so well so that you can also improve upon it. So some of the first things that we have to do as a leader is to come up with a plan. So we looked at the agency, came up with a plan, and as part of that plan, we resulted that it's very, very important to do an institutional assessment. Our president today did speak a little on capacity of what we have. He did touch on reforms and to see how we can continue to improve the system. So what we had to do is that, given the kind of institution we inherited, it was important to assess it and see where we had the gaps, especially if the expectation is that you are going to be having some very high level interactions with private sector, with development partners. It was important to have the right people in place. It was important to have the right manpower in place. So we have been able to do that for the last 2.5 years. But at the same time, while that is ongoing and while that is currently being completed, we are going to increase the workforce. We are going to make sure that we have an institution that is ready and willing to have this sort of engagement.
Well,
so we've been, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to say, outside of the agency now, you have said a lot about what you're doing in the agency. Now, outside of the agency, how do you influence the people around you towards national development?
Well, I think you influence people by doing, and I believe in actions. Today when you look at, I know you want me to talk outside of the agency, but to be very honest, since I've gotten this role, I don't think there's much I do that is outside.
That means you always think rural electrification.
And funny enough, you are actually one of the youngest. We talk about inclusion of young Nigerians in governance, and then of course you are one of the few individuals who are quite young heading agencies, organizations in the country, and we're celebrating independence. And I'm sure a lot of people will be saying that yes, young people are all equally being given opportunity. What have they done with it? Now you talk about funding, outsourcing from outside the government budget. Talk to us about some of the success stories.
Yeah, so it's good to be in this bracket of young people, but I think I'm about stepping out now. I'm nearly there. But just to add, not just am I the youngest, but I also have two very young executive directors. I think we must be the youngest executive management team in the entire country. So I think if you touch about some of the success stories that we have had in the last 2.5 years or so, we have been able to see through a lot of our programs. So you talk about projects that we have been able to design through the capital projects. We've launched our Energizing Agriculture program. We've looked at how we are increasing on deployment of solar home systems in communities in the country. We talk about the Nigerian electrification project, where we have been able to achieve over 11,000 mini grid connections. We have been able to impact over 50,000 Nigerians in over 108 communities. I had the privilege of visiting one of those communities, for instance, in Ogun State, where that community didn't have power for 200 years. But one of our mini grids is there now, a 100 kilowatt system that is functional, and they have been able to bring power. Some of them might even experience a bit more power than one or two of us in the urban areas. But I mean, these are some of the kind of successes that we have been able to achieve. If I want to go on, I might need a bit more time.
Yeah, but we definitely don't have all the time. We know you have so many things to share with us.
Absolutely.
But we just have to end it here, and we just want to tell you that thank you very much for honoring our invitation
thank you very much.
to this place. Thank you very much, and happy independence to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Happy independence.
Yeah, it's the 62nd year's independence anniversary of Nigeria, the journey so far. And now, Julieta Aina is standing by to tell us about the economy, how we have fared these 62 years in our economy.
Looking at the current economic realities, some will say these are not the best of times for the nation. 62 years on, Nigeria seems to be far from where it was envisaged to be economically.
Even as a student, then in the University of Nigeria, you go with chicken, good food. Now, people put water, even sometimes without sugar, in gari, and that is their meal. So you look at people, children, adults, they look malnourished.
Those who witnessed October 1st, 1960 say it came with loss of expectations, armed with an economy that seemed poised for a great future. But that has not been the case.
By now, there were some things that we should be self-sufficient in, especially with the kind of natural resources and human resources that we have also. So in taking care of ourselves, managing our economy, moving like other developed countries in the world have gone, I think we are not near there at all.
Experts say the abandonment of agriculture for oil seems to have gradually driven the economy into some sort of bondage.
Once there's an international crisis, it affects our reserve and also affects our revenue. So what we need to do is to look at inwardly and then begin to develop the agricultural sector again. First and foremost, let's see how we can locally develop even what we consume.
One of the most noticeable failures in the economy today is in the dollar to naira exchange rate.
When I traveled to the UK was it 1981, naira had more value than pounds. And today, pounds is almost 800 naira to a pound. So it is it's because of our interest and wants. There are so many things we don't need that we are doing.
We've done a lot of mistakes, and one of the biggest mistakes we made is in the area of exchange rate, which we have given to some individuals to control our exchange rate without us taking control of it at the time. But now we can say we've done that, but again, it's a little bit late because that has resulted in our currency being battered.
Since the mid-1970s, the economy has been dependent on oil, despite government's attempts at diversification into other sectors.
You want to be the leading producer of rice. You want to be the leading producer of milk. You want to be the leading producer of wheat. You want to be the leading producer of textiles materials. You don't do that. When you want to diversify your economy, you think of what area, what's your competitive advantage? What is good in our land? Is cassava? We say we have the best type of cassava product. Have we been able to sit down and say, okay, fine, let's develop, let us be known. When they say cassava, they think of Nigeria. It used to be cocoa before. How much do we still have those cocoa? When you talk of Ghana now, you say cocoa. So have we been able, can we go back and we talk about the granite pyramid before? What can come out of granite? Not just having granite as a raw material. What can come out of the granite? Have we been able to take that and make that our competitive advantage? That is the challenge that we have.
As Africa's main oil producer, Nigeria has the 11th largest oil reserve in the world, accounting for 90% of foreign exchange earning. Experts say the government needs to take proactive action for Nigeria to be where it should be.
There was a time there was oil boom. Nigerians were comfortable. Remember, even Ghanaians had problems. They were all over Nigeria, and we named them. We list their bags. Say Ghana must go. Nigerians insisted Ghana must go. Today, Nigeria has been overtaken by many African countries. We are not even talking of the Western world. So we have, but I believe that with good leadership, bet me 1 year, 2 years, Nigeria will come up again.
Post-independence, the agricultural sector accounted for more than 70% of GDP and 90% employment. Those who witnessed the good old days reminisce how most of the food consumed was grown and produced in Nigeria, how Nigeria Airways was the preferred airline, how vehicles were assembled in the country and the parts produced locally, as well as other factors that were the drivers of that flourishing economy. How hard can it be to get the country back on track?
We want to talk about Dubai. They were like awesome. Yes, they have oil like us, but they look at what do we do with our resources, which was oil was their main income. They use it to diversify into other side, and they did not just diversify into want to be here. They just diversify into terrorism, and they are gaining it now. So what we need to do is to look at our competitive advantage and then use our main income and diversify into other areas.
As the population continues its rapid growth, which is in turn forcing the acceleration of urbanization, Nigerians remain hopeful for a better tomorrow.
Certainly, Nigerians are indeed hopeful for a better tomorrow because it's rightly so. People are quick to draw comparison between Nigeria and other countries who are doing quite well. We talk about the Asian tigers. We talk about the UAE. When did they start? Somebody will ask. But certainly, we have everything we need to develop as a nation. And of course, during the week, Shike spent some quality time with a veteran educationist, and also will be talking to us about the good old days, how things were, and his experiences today. That chat is with Mr. Sylvester Onoja.
Thank you very much, sir, for having this time to share your experience with us. So we're talking about independence, and we want to reflect on the good old days of Nigeria. And I believe you were very much around that independence. I just want you to share with us some of your experience at that time when it was announced after the whole struggle for independence, and eventually the independence now came around. How was the experience like?
I was a 16-year-old in primary 6 of a boarding primary school, NTA Senior Primary School, Ofugo, under the Igala NTA. So, early in life, I went to a boarding school at the senior primary. And we were taught by people from all parts of this country in the primary school. And we mixed up with people from every part of then northern Nigeria, Igala land particularly. So I was a 16-year-old. Ofugo was 12 miles away from Ankpa, the headquarters of what was then Igala NE and then Ankpa was a district headquarters.
What is NEA?
Native Authority. Igala Native Authority. That was what it was in northern Nigeria at that time during the colonial era. They are the present-day local government areas. Before independence, of course, the authority of those areas were vested in the indigenes of the people. That's why it is called Native Authority. We walked 12 miles. By miles at that time, so I don't know what precisely it is, 9 kilometers, because I think that way. A day before independence, we arrived on foot with our teachers marching with us, and we were singing. We had just learned the new national anthem. Before then, the national anthem was God Save the Queen. And so we all save, God Save our gracious Queen. Then teachers were sent on course to go and learn the new national anthem, to come and teach us in the school. And that's where we started practicing. Nigeria we hailed, our own dear native land. Though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. A lot of things educationally in this country are developed.
What were the aspirations? What were the anticipation of a new Nigeria that was coming on board?
We were going to be free. We were going to do the things that the white man was doing. We were going to be our own people governing. We were going to see the kind of things that we didn't like the white man do. They were looking down on us. We were, going to see that a complete, absolute change, that the black man was going to be in charge of things. We were not seeing everywhere. In our days, you go to church, the pastor or the reverend father was likely to be a white man. You go to the school, those coming to inspect your school was a white man. Anything that stood for excellence, the white man represented excellence. So we were, when they set, we became independent. We were looking forward to all those changes. And the changes took place. And the people who took over with them were competent. Were doing much more than those who were there, committed. And so, even as a young man, the discrimination and seeing myself as a second-class citizen had completely disappeared. So we felt that things were going to go well. We went to college, we had scholarship, we had a system of this thing that worked, everything worked. The light, water, where it was available worked. And that was what it was. And so in my final year in college, that was where the real change came, with a coup in 1966. All the trouble and the civil war came. Before then, of course, mismanagement and lack of tolerance was beginning to show. There were fights. Politics was not, we hadn't experienced before, but violence came into it after some time and all that. So the hopes we had started fading. And then in 1966, the coup happened. In 1954, I'll take you back to history. The BBC started educational broadcasting to West Africa. One of the countries, Nigeria was part of it, but northern Nigeria keyed into it as way back as 1958. So they established the Northern Nigeria Schools Broadcast Unit. So wherever teachers were, they were taught. There were seminars held on the radio at particular times. Northern Nigeria was the first in Nigeria, really, to key to the teachers' broadcast. So in 1967, Northern Nigeria was broken into 6 states. And so what used to be Northern Nigerian Schools Broadcast Unit was taken over by what was called then the Interim Common Services Agency. That agency wound up in 1969. And the responsibilities of those states were transferred to the federal. The federal government took over what was then known and established the Federal Schools Broadcast Unit in 1969. That was a very long name and all that. So in 1977, the name was changed to National Educational Technology Center. Because the headquarters of the school's broadcast was in Kaduna, that body was established in Kaduna. So in 1977, the National Educational Technology Center took charge of that body, which became a part of the Federal Ministry of Education. So I was fortunate. 10 years later, I joined. At that time, Nigeria was a member of the International Council for Educational Media. And Nigeria was the only country in Africa, second country in Africa, because South Africa was there, that was a member, and the only one in West Africa. I had the privilege of representing Nigeria at the International Council on Educational Media in Geneva for 10 years. That body brought educational broadcasting to Nigeria. It is 4 in Washington. It is 4 in London. It is 4 in Scotland. It is 4 in anywhere else in the world. So, if you are an educated person, you become a citizen of the world. We were Nigerians. I am a Nigerian, but my children are international citizens. We owe them that, and we need to give them the best of knowledge. And the best of knowledge can be given by those who know. You cannot ask people who do not know to teach people who ought to know. And that is the problem that we have with our teacher education in this country. The right people are not teaching, the right people are not planning education, and the right people are not learning. So that's where we are. We need to put the right people to plan education. We need to put the right people to teach. And we also put the right people to learn.
It's been a long interview, and you've relayed to us your experience, your hopes, your aspirations about Nigeria. Now, what is Nigeria of your dream? What type of Nigeria do you still expect to see as Nigeria marks another independence, 62nd independence anniversary at that?
The Nigeria where peace and justice will reign. Peace and justice will reign. Peace and justice. It's there on our memorial bearing. That's Nigeria we need. Peace and justice. But it's only education that can give birth to peace and justice. Every government at all levels must make education our number 1 priority. We must make education our number 2 priority. And we must make education our number 3 priority. Education is the only thing that can liberate us in this country.
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your thoughts with us at this time. And we pray that as we celebrate another independence anniversary, we'll really have Nigeria of our dream.
Thank you very much. That is our prayer.
I am waiting, just to cut this cake, this independence cake. Of course, I'm sure it's going to be very delicious. Now, let's quickly introduce our guests. Let's start with the introduction of Princess Zara Audu. She is the APC Zonal Women Leader, North Central. You are welcome to our studios.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Happy Independence Day to all Nigerians.
And funny enough, last year you were here with us.
Yes, it's become a culture, isn't
with
it?
With your flag as well.
The flag is always here. Truly, always loyal to Nigeria.
Now let's meet somebody who is also marking his birthday celebration today, in the person of Godwin Nabwenye Ike. He's an aviation expert. You're welcome to our studios. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you, and thank you so much. And my dear viewers, please.
How does it really feel to be marking your birthday the same day Nigeria is marking her independence?
A whole lot of fun, and I'm pride. I'm doing it for the 65th time.
You're older than Nigeria.
I know.
Yes, I am 65 today.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, Zara, you listened to Mr. President, and of course he talked about the need to have issue-based campaigns going into to the 2023 general election. But in your own opinion, do you think the president is under immense pressure to deliver to deliver a credible 2023 general elections?
Absolutely. Mr. President is a product of credible elections. And like he said in his speech, rightfully, he has experienced situations that were not so credible, and he has been a victim of it. So I can assure Nigerians that we have nothing to fear. The president will ensure that there is equity, fairness, and transparency in this upcoming polls in 2023. I am still, notwithstanding, I'm still very, very positive that the APC, which is the flag that we fly as a zonal woman leader APC, I'm very optimistic of our ability to deliver and to win. So we're also supporting the need for free, fair, credible elections in the country.
We are all stakeholders in the Nigerian project when we talk about the Nigerian project. Now, this person says that Nigeria is our beloved nation. Whatever we are passing through today, songs of joy will be heard again in the land. God bless Nigeria. It's coming from Emmanuel Orumade from Okala Kingdom. Now, talking about hope for the future, of course, the president admitted that we are going through a lot as a nation, but critically, how crucial will be the participation of the Nigerian youth in the forthcoming general election? Of course, women generally.
Nigerians are very resilient. Let's continue to weather the storm and be hopeful for better. Like they say, as long as there's life, there's always hope. And also, I feel like a lot of our problems, like he said, to be honest, it's self-inflicted. Some of the things we do also contribute to the fact that how we're not getting the leaders that we want. A lot of it has to do with, like you said, vote buying, selling your votes cheaply. Also some people just not even coming out to vote for the right people, not being actively involved in politics. Politics affects our everyday life, so we all need to be conscious of being actively involved and ensuring that we take a keen interest. And when your leaders come to campaign, we need to stop accepting the barest minimums. When I say your leaders, including myself, because I know I'm going to be actively campaigning across the 7 states in the North Central, your demand should be a bit different. For women, yes, we're going to work very, very hard, God willing, to deliver for our next incoming president, but we also expect that how women will be given, a seat at the table. Women will start to be given, would be put into better ministries, better commissions at the state level, and etc. So back to what he was saying, be hopeful. We will keep struggling. It's a process that the entire world is going through, and we don't see any other country giving up, so why should we give up?
We are the ones to make Nigeria what we want it to be. Very important message. So we need to cut this cake because Fisayo is standing by in the other studio, and of course the cake, this Nigerian cake, is baked by Comfort World Cakes Kawara Market. Her name is Comfort Onyemanuen. Well, so let's just cut the cake. Do we spell Nigeria or just wish Nigeria a happy independence anniversary?
God bless Nigeria.
All right.
Okay.
So let's go. All right. God bless Nigeria.